Strategic Partnerships for Youth video. We will aim to introduce this key action and to give applicants some points of reference that can be used when applying. Key Action 2 Strategic Partnerships aim to develop initiatives addressing one or more fields of education, training, and youth, and promote innovation, exchange of experience, and know-how between different types of organizations involved in education, training, and youth, or in other relevant fields. In order to be eligible for funding, a project should address at least one horizontal priority or one field-specific priority. You can now see on the screen the different priorities that a project in the youth field could address under Key Action 2 Strategic Partnerships. Please refer to pages 106 to 109 of the 2018 Program Guide for more detailed information. Projects can elect to be a partnership project for the exchange of practices or a project supporting innovation. Depending on the objectives of the project, the participating organizations involved, the expected impact, and other elements, strategic partnerships can be of different sizes and adapt their activities accordingly. Strategic partnerships supporting innovation are projects that are expected to develop innovative outputs and/or engage into intensive dissemination and exploitation activities of existing and newly produced products or innovative ideas. Applicants have the possibility to request a dedicated budget for intellectual outputs and multiply events in order to directly answer to the innovation aspect of the action. Strategic partnerships supporting exchange of good practices have as their primary goal to allow organizations to develop and reinforce networks, increase their capacity to operate at transnational level, share and confront ideas, practices, and methods. Here's a list of the program countries. The applicant for Key Action 2, however, must be an organization established in a program country. As a general rule, strategic partnerships target the cooperation between organizations established in program countries. However, organizations from partner countries can be involved in strategic partnerships, always as partners, not as applicants. They will be eligible if their participation brings an essential added value to the project, and this has to be justified clearly in the narrative sections of the form. Please bear in mind that activities of learners as well as long-term activities of staff or youth workers from or to partner countries are not eligible. All Key Action 2 projects are organization-led. Individuals cannot apply directly for a grant. Whilst a staff member can complete the application form on behalf of the organization, the project remains the organization's responsibility, even if that staff member leaves the organization. Please be aware that the application organizations must be legally registered in the United Kingdom. If you're unsure of the eligibility of your organization, please check page 111 of the program guide. Whilst your project will involve a number of organizations from across Europe, only the lead organization of the partnership should submit an application. This submission is made on behalf of the whole partnership. Project partners do not need to submit the same application to their own national agencies. Youth projects are multi-beneficiary grants. What this means is that if your project is funded, the lead organization will receive the contract and funds. The lead organization is then advised to organize inter-organization agreement with partners. So, as a reminder, the deadline for application is Thursday, the 15th of February 2018 at 11 a.m. UK time. I can't stress enough how important it is that you submit your application well in advance of the deadline. We cannot accept late applications. Anything submitted after 11 a.m. UK time will be considered late and ineligible. The UK National Agency will be extremely busy in the lead up to this day. By submitting early, you allow yourself enough time to contact us and for us to have time to support you in rectifying any problems. So please, please, please do not leave it until the last minute to submit your application. Under Key Action 2 Strategic Partnership, there are a number of budget categories that you can apply for. These categories make up the total grant amount. Understanding how they work helps. Project management and implementation funds will automatically be added to your grant total as it is calculated according to the length of the project. You can see on the screen the wide variety of activities it can be used for. Transnational Project Meetings Fund can be applied for, although you will need to justify the need for the meetings in terms of number of meetings and participants involved. Meetings should be limited where virtual cooperation will not suffice. The two budget items that you can see now on the screen are only available for project support innovation. Intellectual outputs are activities requiring substantial staff input in order to produce tangible and significant outputs. Funding for intellectual outputs can be claimed in the application form. To distinguish the production of such outputs from those covered by the funding automatically awarded for project management and implementation, you will have to set out these outputs in detail, demonstrating clearly the concrete outputs and related effort put into producing them. The outputs should be innovative and creative and be developed with a clear aim of transferability or usability to organizations other than those participating in the project. Multiplier events are only available to projects producing intellectual outputs. The aim of a multiplier event is to share intellectual outputs to individuals and organizations outside of the Erasmus Plus project. Multiplier events should disseminate and increase the impact of intellectual outputs. Other dissemination activities will be supported by a project management and implementation fund. The aim of a multiplier event should be to test, implement, or disseminate the intellectual outputs to a wider audience. Multiplier events should involve a large number of participants from organizations that are not already involved with the partnership itself. Please bear in mind that multiplier events can only take place in the program countries in which the beneficiaries are located. Both the profile and number of participants will have to be justified, as well as the approach to attract and involve the relevant external organizations and stakeholders. These two categories are based on real costs. This means that you can enter any amount into the box within the application form. Before doing so, it is however important to consider whether what you're applying for is eligible and if it has been justified within the application, and also if it demonstrates value for money. Special needs support can be requested. This is for additional costs directly related to participants with disabilities and accompanying persons. The request for financial support to cover special needs must be motivated and explained clearly in the application form. Please check page 319 of the program guide for the definition of people with special needs. Special needs support cannot be claimed for after the application stage. So you must claim for it in the application if you think there is a high possibility it will be needed to support participants with disability to take part in a mobility activity. The awarding of exceptional cost is not a given, and clear and full justification must be given in the application. Exceptional costs are based on actual costs and must be supported by invoices and receipts at final report. You must clearly reference the section on the form where justification is given for each exceptional cost that is being requested. Before requesting exceptional costs, please check whether the cost cannot be covered under any other budget categories, most likely the project management and implementation budget. Exceptional costs can be requested only if they are critical to the success of the project and are services, goods, or items that cannot be provided by the organizations involved in the project. Clear justification must be given within the application form that these conditions have been met. Exceptional costs, if eligible, can provide up to a maximum of 75% of the real cost of services, goods, items, and so on that would have to be subcontracted or procured by the project. Some examples of eligible exceptional costs can be the translation of intellectual outputs and other key materials that the project is producing, an external evaluation of the project, or equipment critical to the delivery and success of the project. Please bear in mind that all these costs will be assessed on a case-by-case basis. You must be clear on how the funding amount you are requesting has been calculated. Clear justification as to why the organizations involved in the project cannot provide the services or goods being requested through exceptional costs must be given. You can also request funding for learning, teaching, and training activities. These need to be justified and directly linked to the project objectives, and you will need to demonstrate that they will support the partnership achieve this. These activities have a minimum and a maximum duration that must be met, and this duration does not include travel dates. Please check the program guide for more information in terms of the duration of these activities. When applying for funding, please ensure that you apply for all the categories you need. This could be travel and individual support, or in the case of long-term mobilities, you might qualify for linguistic support. You can now see on the screen the 4 different categories that you can apply for funding under learning, teaching, and training activities. Please bear in mind that for travel, you will need to use the distance band calculator provided by the European Union. For individual support, you can apply for a unit cost per day covering the subsistence of participants, including accompanying persons during the activity. Individual support can be used to cover the accommodation and subsistence of participants whilst undertaking their mobility activity. If you plan long-term mobilities, you can apply for linguistic support funds. This is to help contribute to costs linked to the support offered to participants in order to improve their knowledge of the language of instruction or work. Please bear in mind that this is only available for activities lasting between 2 and 12 months. You can also claim exceptional costs for expensive travel. Please refer to page 124 of the 2018 program guide for more information in terms of exceptional costs for domestic travel. When applying, you will need to carefully consider the quality criteria and how your project will meet these. Please refer back to pages 115 and 116 of the 2018 program guide. Please ensure that your project meets at least one of the priorities. In order to be considered for funding, your project will need to score at least 60 points overall and meet the minimum required score per criteria, which is half of each one of them. The expert guidance has now been published on the Erasmus Plus website, so please check it in order to fully understand the quality criteria and the scoring process. Some of the national agency hints and tips is that you choose your partners really carefully. You're going to be working with them for an extended period of time, and it is really important that you can ensure that the partnership will be successful by getting on and by working together to deliver a successful project. Please access the national agency support and guidance. We will try to support you as much as we can with your application. Please refer back to eligibility, quality, and budget rules, as you will need to demonstrate that your project meets this. As we've just mentioned, the quality of your partners and the partnership itself is really important. So please make sure that you communicate what is required of them and what your expectations are to your partners. Include all key information in the application form, as the experts will not be familiar with your project unless you give them all the relevant information. You will also need to ensure that your project is achievable. You will need to consider the capacity of your organization and the capacity of your partners' organizations, and also the outcomes that you're trying to achieve. So, what do you need to do when preparing to apply? First of all, you will need to register in the participant portal via the EU login to obtain a unique reference number. Please do not create another one if you already have one. If you think your organization has a PIC number already, you can get in touch with us and we will look for this number for you. Please refer back to the guidance that we publish in order to support you. The step-by-step guide for Key Action to youth projects has now been published on our website, so you can access that. You can also contact our helpline for support. And as I said, please complete and submit before the deadline, as late applications will not be considered. You will need to upload the legal identity form, the financial identity form, and any mandates to your participant portal. We will use these documents to ensure that your organization is who they say it is. You can now see on the screen some of the documents you will have to submit either on your participant portal or with your application. When preparing the narrative sections, you should be considering the questions on the screen, and you should be able to provide as much detail as possible. One of our recommendations is that if a question is broken down in several sections, you address each one of them. We're now going to talk about impact and dissemination, as this is one of the things that Erasmus Plus projects should bring to the local, national, or European context. So, first of all, you will need to consider how your project will have an impact, and you will need to identify clear and focused objectives and what the target groups for your project are, how your project happening will have an effect on this, and you will need to discuss all this in your application. You can access on our website a number of resources to measure impact and to predict the impact of your project. A project can have both tangible and intangible results, and you should consider how you're going to measure this. Are you going to use questionnaires before and after an activity takes place? Are you going to look at data? How are you going to do this? You should be able to mention this in your application form. You will also need to draft a dissemination plan. At this point, you will need to know how and when you're going to disseminate the results that your project is going to have. You will have to define the expected impact and what your project will deliver. And you will need to consider how these outcomes will be disseminated and to whom. Some platforms and resources that you can use and that have been produced by the European Union are, for example, Youthpass. Youthpass is a tool and documents that recognize learning and outcomes from youth work activities. Using Youthpass will raise the participants' awareness of learning in a diversity of contexts, And it will also help your project reflect on the competencies that the youth workers have developed. You can also find opportunities, resources, and tools in the SALTA website. You can see the link below. You can also use Eurodesk, which is a platform that allows you to find relevant scholarships, internships, grant, training, and competition. And they also provides your organization and the young people with relevant resources. So, what should you do next? As I mentioned before, you can refer back to the written guidance that is available on our website. You can call or email us in our helplines, or you can register for a one-to-one support call. Just as a reminder, the deadline for Key Action 2 Strategic Partnerships in the Field of Youth is the 15th of February at 11 a.m. UK time, and late applications will not be considered. You can contact us at any of these email addresses or this phone number. Thank you so much for listening, and we look forward to working with you.